Children's children are a crown of old men, and the glory of children is their father. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we share together Proverbs chapter 17, verse 6. Solomon was a keen observer of human nature, and throughout history, the most important person in a child's life has been the father, who trains the child and looks to see how well he's done. And the most important person in a child's life is their father and the training and direction that they have given. In modern society, much of this training has been delegated to others, even to the extent that some parents take no interest in their children's training and abdicate it to other institutions. Even so, it is the training at the very young age that lays a foundation for a person's life. Even the training in the mother's home in the first few years of life. So we can observe these things at a natural level, but the point of quoting them in Scripture is to recognise that they apply at a spiritual level. So children's children are the crown of old men. When a person is young, they are learning. When they are in middle age, they're busy working, but they're training their children. And the proof of the pudding, in terms of how well I have trained my children, is what my grandchildren are doing. Children's children are the crown of old men. Grandfathers and grandmothers are typically very proud of what their grandchildren do. They don't have prime responsibility for the training, although no doubt they help and they have an influence, but they are not there all the time. But they see the outcome of their own training of their children when they see the success of their grandchildren. And so Solomon observed something that has been characteristic of society thousands of years ago and continues today. Grandma's boast book about her grandchildren. But it's a two-way street, and so the complementary part of this proverb is the glory of children is their father. So we have a young child at school who will boast of their father. My father can do this and my father can do that, because their father is the one that they know best and well. It's unfortunate that in modern society again, pressures of society try and destroy the family, break up families so that children do not know their father and their mother. Of course, sometimes that happens because of death or the need of employment, but when it's a failure of society and a failure of commitment, it is very sad for the children, because the children do not know who to follow, what lead to take. And society is full of many people presenting many different ideas. So how is a young person who is immature meant to sort out which is the right path when there are so many conflicting ideas around? Well, that is why the law of God said children are to obey their parents, and gives great emphasis on the fact that it is our parents who we have first responsibility to. It is in the law, and it is reiterated in the New Testament. The complementary side of that is that fathers have a responsibility to train their children in the Lord. This responsibility was first explicitly stated, at least to my knowledge, when God said to Abraham, "I have known him so that he might teach his children." And so Abraham has become the father of the faith of many people in the world, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, because of his role as a father, the natural father of Arabs and Jews, the spiritual father of Christians. People talk about the fact that they are children of Abraham. This became a debating point with Jesus, because the Jews claimed Abraham as their father, but Jesus challenged them and said, "No, your father is the devil, because you do his works." The father that you have influences who you are and the life that you live. Let's think about Moses. Moses was brought up in the Egyptian court, and yet he turns out to be a great man of God. Well, the first few years of his life, until he was weaned, he spent in the home of his mother, Jochebed, the daughter of Levi, the son of Jacob. And Moses' father, Amram, was the grandson of Levi. And in those years, he learned about God, and that formed the foundation of his life. When he was weaned, he went to the best schools in Egypt. But what they did was build on the foundation that had been laid by his mother and father. And so Solomon has another proverb, that when you teach a child, then in his old age he will not depart from it. Moses became a great man of God, but it was all built on the foundation that he learned from his mother and father. Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children is their father. This also applies at the spiritual level as well as the natural level, for it is in a spiritual sense that we are Abraham's seed, we are Abraham's children, because we have the faith of Abraham. Now, John, in his second epistle, says, I rejoice greatly that I have found some of your children walking in truth, as we received commandment from the Father. John is writing to a church that he had founded, a church that he had established, and so when he found some of their children walking in the truth, they were his grandchildren. And he rejoiced greatly to see that the message that he had passed on had been passed on to the next generation, and he urges them to continue in that path. In his third epistle, he says, I rejoice greatly when brethren came and testified of the truth that is in you, just as you walk in the truth. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. He's writing to Gaius, one of his disciples, and now he is observing their life. And so he is glorying in his children and his children's children. Of course, the greatest example of this is the relationship between Jesus and God the Father. In John 5, we read of Jesus healing a sick man by the pool of Bethesda and telling him to take his bed and walk. And when people said, what are you doing carrying your bed on the Sabbath? The man answered them, He who made me well said to me, take up your bed and walk. They said, Who is this man? The man didn't know, for Jesus had withdrawn place, but afterwards Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, See, you've been made well, sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon you. And the man departed and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. And when they challenged Jesus, Jesus answered them, My Father has been working until now, and I have been working. Then the Jews tried to kill him, because not only had he broken the rule of the Sabbath, but he had said God was his Father, making himself equal with God. And so Jesus said, Most assuredly, I say, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father do. For whatever he does, the Son also does in like manner. For the Father loves the Son, and shows him all things that he himself does, and he will show him greater works than these, that you may marvel. And he goes on to speak about the fact that God raises the dead, the Son would raise the dead. And there's a great dispute, because they reject the notion that what Jesus is doing is what he has learned from his Father. He goes on to say, I have come in my Father's name, and you did not receive me. If another comes in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe, who receive honour from one another, and do not seek the honour that comes from God? Do not think that I shall accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moses, in whom you trust. For if you believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote of me. But if you do not believe his writings, how will you believe my words? And the Father, on several occasions, declared, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children is their father.